What makes some icings better than others, you may ask? Why, royalty, of course. What is an essential recipe that any good prince or princess, who bakes that is, needs to have in their arsenal? Why, the recipe for royal icing, of course. Thanks for joining me on my Lovely Sweet Cakes adventure. Vlog number 2 is how to make royal icing. So here we go. Alright, so these are the tools that we're going to be using to make our royal icing. Firstly, you'll need a set of measuring spoons. You will need a set of measuring cups. You will need a bowl to sift our sugar into with your mesh sifter, as well as we'll use the same bowl to actually mix our icing in as well. I just use a table knife to level off the sugar as we measure it. And then lastly, you will need a hand mixer or a stand mixer, whichever you prefer. All right, so now the good stuff. So I like to think I make royal icing the old-fashioned way. This is actually the recipe that my mom taught me. There are kind of 3 recipes that I'm kind of aware of that are out there, but the way I'm going to be making it today is what I like to call the old-fashioned way. So that is using lemon juice, powdered sugar, and pasteurized egg whites. Now, the important part about the egg whites portion is they do have to be pasteurized just to prevent anyone from getting sick, getting salmonella from eating your royal icing. You do not want that to happen, so you absolutely positively have to have pasteurized egg whites, or you can actually buy pasteurized eggs as well at the store. The other way that people make royal icing, if you don't want to be using egg whites, is to use meringue powder. So I'll actually include kind of a separate recipe that has the combination of meringue powder as well as the sugar, and it's just water is the other ingredient as well. And then there is a third way of making royal icing is basically instead of using, like I said, the old-fashioned lemon juice as the additive to the sugar and the egg whites, is to use cream of tartar. And so those kind of 3 different combinations, I'll put kind of mini recipes for the royal icing for each of those, like separately. And so you'll see those in a second before we start. And then I also like to add, just for a little bit of flavoring, in this recipe it'll be clear vanilla as well as a little tiny drop of pineapple essence to add a little tiny pineapple flavor. So the next step is measuring out the ingredients. So we're going to go ahead and start by adding our sugar. We are going to add 8 cups of confectionery sugar to this recipe. And the thing about royal icing is it's kind of a little bit of an art, because what you'll find is as you mix it, this recipe is actually designed to make a thicker royal icing. So the kind of royal icing that you can use for piping flowers or for piping decorations. The kind of royal icing that you can use for adhering your cakes to the cake board. But if you want to achieve the consistency that is a little bit less stiff, if you want it a little bit looser because you want to use it for flooding cookies, what we'll be doing to liquefy the recipe a little bit is add water after we've made our initial mixture. So the consistency of this can be quite stiff, or if the size of your eggs is varied and maybe there's a little bit more liquid, it could be a little bit runny. So what you do to fix that is you can either add additional amounts of the powdered sugar to kind of stiffen it up if it's too loose, or you can of course add water to it if you find that it's too stiff as the mixture comes together. So I'm just gonna sip the rest of this sugar into the bowl, and then we'll add the other ingredients and we'll go from there. So now that we've added our confectionery sugar and it's been sifted, then I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice. So next we're going to add 1/2 cup of egg whites. So now that we have all our ingredients in the bowl, this is where the magic happens. And just because this confectionery sugar is probably going to just kind of plume up all over in the air, I like to start out by kind of just stirring it a little bit to try to incorporate some of the sugar and the egg whites and lemon juice together, just so it's not going to be as likely just to be absolutely everywhere once I start mixing it. So I'll usually mix this for a couple of minutes, probably 2 to 3 minutes, and allow the ingredients to all come together. And then once it's kind of all come together to a good consistency, and once you kind of see the shine kind of started coming off of the mixture, which means kind of it starts to dull a little bit, then I'll usually leave my mixture in and I'll mix it for probably another probably 2 to 3 minutes, and then pretty much you're done. At this point is when you can actually add your flavorings to the mixture, and actually I'm gonna do that right now. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just gonna add 1 teaspoon of my clear vanilla, and then I'm going to add actually just a touch, so just about a 1/4 teaspoon of my pineapple essence. And this pineapple essence is very special to me. It's actually really concentrated, and it was brought to me from my tanty. She took a trip to Trinidad and Tobago, and while she was out there, she brought this pineapple essence back for me, and it is amazing. So I use it really sparingly because I know she had to go a really long way to get it for me. And I actually don't even fill it all the way because like this essence actually packs like an incredible punch. So even though I have a 1/4 of a teaspoon here, I'm actually only putting in probably about the equivalent of even half of that, so like 1/8 of a teaspoon. So pouring that in there. And that, because of the strength of the essence, it'll actually add a touch of a yellow kind of a hue to my Royal Icing. If you want to keep yours white, then obviously you're going to have to choose an essence that doesn't have any color to it. If it was just the vanilla essence, that would have been fine, but this pineapple will add a little touch of yellow, but that'll be fine for my purposes because I'm actually going to be coloring my Royal Icing afterwards as well. So once this is all mixed together, you'll find that the texture and the consistency is very thick, and we'll talk about how to thin it to suit your project after we're done incorporating everything. Wow, doesn't that look incredible? And it tastes as good as it looks, trust me. Now that wasn't very difficult, was it? So as I mentioned before, this kind of thick consistency, it's like it literally like stands up. This consistency I find is perfect for things like piping flowers. Often I'll thin this out just a little bit when I use the Royal Icing for stencils, and then of course I use it for cookies. So I'm just going to portion out probably the equivalent of about 1.5 cups into each of these bowls, and then I'll thin them out with water, one to the outlining consistency and the other one to the flooding consistency, just to kind of show you guys what it should look like if you're going to be using it for the different purposes. Yeah, so just about the equivalent of, I would say, 1 cup. And actually I'm going to do for the flooding just about 1/2 cup because I'm going to need more icing for making my decorations. So about a half cup I'll be putting in this bowl. These are the 3 consistencies, and also I should mention, when you are done with your royal icing, it's actually really important to cover the icing with plastic film to prevent it from beginning to harden, because at this consistency, at the stiff consistency, it actually starts hardening right away. You don't want to crust the form on the top of your icing. So I'm going to cover these with cling film. Okay, so for creating an outlining consistency, as you can see, this royal icing we just made is very thick. But the thing is, royal icing responds to water very quickly, so you actually don't want to be too liberal in adding your water. I like to add my water actually 1 teaspoon or even half a teaspoon at a time, just so I don't go past the point of no return in terms of the viscosity that I want it to be for what I'm going to use it for. So for changing this into outlining icing, I'm going to start by adding 1 teaspoon, and then I'm just going to mix it and see kind of what consistency I get. Because if you take a look, just adding that 1 teaspoon of water loosens it up very, very quickly. But as I mentioned, the consistency that we originally mixed it to is so thick. And like I said, I kind of like it that thickness because it does kind of give me the option to kind of thin it out and use it for other things whenever I need to. And this is really nice, but it's not quite a flowing consistency. You kind of want it to kind of start to kind of drop off your spoon on its own. It's a little too thick. So we'll go add another full teaspoon of water. And I think after this point we'll probably want to only look at doing it half a teaspoon at a time. Actually, this might be able to take another full teaspoon. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. So you can tell it's starting to flow off of the spoon, but it's still a little on the thick side. So let's try 1 more. So this is teaspoon number 3, and this is about, like I said, 1.5 cups of icing. But you'll have to just kind of gauge from using the water as you mix it to tell when to stop. But I would say, like, after about 2 teaspoons, I would generally recommend just going about half a teaspoon of water at a time after that. So this to me, yeah, this is starting to flow. So this is actually quite nice. But actually, when I'm piping, well, actually, yeah, this is just about there. So like, I'm even thinking I'm not even gonna add, let's see, half a teaspoon. I don't want to go over, so yeah, just yeah, about half a teaspoon I think is gonna bring me right to that point. Might be a little bit less than half a teaspoon that I just added here. Yep, yeah, this is it right here. Yeah, and the thing is, usually I say, when it's flowing, you'll see that it forms these like little ribbons. And they usually say if those ribbons kind of disappear after, I'd say, 3 to 4 seconds, they begin to start kind of fading into the rest of the icing, then you're pretty much right about there. So this to me is a good consistency for outlining cookies. And this would be the point at which, if you wanted to, you could also add coloring to this. The thing about coloring is you have to be careful about what kind of coloring you use, because it's got to be a gel color, because if you have a colorant that has water in it or that is a liquid, then it's almost like adding more water to your icing. So if you're going to do that, you might want to add your color first before you start adding your water, just so you don't take your consistency over what you want it to be to use on your cookies. Okay, so this is outlining consistency done. So lastly, we are going to make our royal icing for cookie flooding, and we are going to start by adding, I'd say this is about half a cup of the royal icing mix that we made. So let's start by adding 2 teaspoons of water and see where the consistency is after 2 teaspoons. And I'm just going to incorporate that. Because this amount is already a lot less than the amount that we mixed for the outlining, the 2 teaspoons is actually bringing it really close to where it actually needs to be a consistency for flooding. Okay. But it is still a little loose, or sorry, a little firm, I should say. Okay, so I'm actually gonna add just half a cup, half a teaspoon, I should say, not half a cup, half a teaspoon of water, and see how that changes it. So for flooding, you kind of want it to flow quite quickly off of your spoon. So I think that is actually just right for me. So this is kind of what it looks like. So it actually flows quite quickly. You still do see ribbons, right, when it hits the inside of the bowl, but the ribbons kind of disappear pretty fast. So to me, that's a good consistency. And the same tip applies in terms of coloring that I mentioned for the outlining icing, is you want to put your color in first and kind of see where the consistency is at after you've added your color. As I mentioned, the gel paste is what I prefer, just because it doesn't add a lot of water to the icing. But if you have a liquid color, you can certainly use that and start with that, and then you can add additional water if it hasn't quite reached the consistency that you want it to be. But this, to me, is it. This is right there. This is where you want it to be for flooding your cookies. So there you have it, the 3 different consistencies of royal icing, and you have basically 3 different recipes for royal icing that you can choose based on what ingredients you have on hand or what ingredients that you would want to use. And
so there you have it. With one simple recipe, you are now princes and princesses of your own kitchens. Hi everyone, thank you so much for supporting and watching my videos. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and please like the video. I appreciate all of your support, especially all my friends and family who'll be watching these so far. And anyone else who's had the chance to enjoy them, I really appreciate your support. So that is vlog number 2, and I look forward to bringing you some more content. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. And please leave me any comments or questions that you may have regarding the recipes or my channel or just anything in general. I'm here for you. Yes.